Namaskar, Namaskar, everybody. Before I start my talk, I would like to seek Swamiji's blessings uh, to enlighten my thoughts in all the humility of humbleness and my reverence to him. We not only pay our obeisance to our direct guru, but their gurus as well, and ultimately to the Almighty space or the absolute space or the nature, which is the ultimate source of the knowledge. Without the grace of Guru, in my personal opinion, is sometimes difficult to progress. The Almighty's luminosity of the knowledge and law scintillates through the Guru. Guru is the channel, but the ultimate source is the Almighty. With that, I want to offer my prayers to Guru also before we begin. Let me share my slides now. Is everybody able to hear me and see my slides? Just want to confirm.
Yes, Ashwinji.
Okay.
Could you please raise the volume?
You want me to
Not
raise
what
the
you're
volume?
speaking, probably, closer to the computer or
Okay.
a
I am
device.
close to the computer, but let me
Oh,
see how I can raise the volume. Okay. Yeah, my volume is at 100%, so I don't know what the problem is. Uh,
okay, no problem.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. The Guru is the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in our uh, Bhakti culture. The Guru, in truth, is the Supreme Brahman itself. And my salutations to Swami Yogiraj Vedatri Maharishi, who has been very kind enough to be my Guru. So, my today's topic is on absolute space, consciousness, and modeling. Are you not able to hear? Or so in my talk, I'm trying to uh, develop a conceptual bridge between the Vedic, the Vedatrian, and the modern scientific thought. We all have been talking about this topic directly or indirectly uh, since Dr. Ravindranath organized and started these Zoom meetings. I commend and thank for his vision, persistence, patience, and inspiration throughout these years. My focus on today's talk, as apparent from the title, is express my understanding of the subject my thoughts on what is being done currently and what is in progress and what needs to be done to authenticate and validate the teachings of Maharishi. My goal is not to hand you a final answer or a finished answer, because in this presentation, probably I'll have more questions than the answers. And we all can discuss together and try to find the answers, either in this session or in our continued progress of exploring this topic and doing research on it. I'm also one of the seekers like you, and I'm open to a structured inquiry to see how far we can carry spiritual revelation towards something science can eventually test. Please treat this as a conversation and not a lecture. I want your questions and your pushback throughout. Before I begin, I have a word to say that everything here draws on my learning from spiritual leaders, scientists, philosophers, spiritual leaders, just my, uh, and the people that I have interacted with, as well as my own tuning with the Almighty nature. So nothing is my own, everything belongs to the nature. I've used my own thoughts, process, understanding, intellect, and ideas in preparing this talk. The inferences, opinions, and conclusions are entirely my own, and I'm offering in a spirit of inquiry, not to contradict or disagree with anyone. I'm not here to advocate a theory, philosophy, or science, one or the other. Possibly we all can culminate at a common point of truth of realization. As the presentation goes on, it will become apparent that I have more questions than knowledge to share with. My real purpose is to add and emphasize another direction and focus for the group's objective and future work. So, before even I continue, I want to create a premise uh, that realization of truth can only be achieved through inquiry, questioning, debating, and analytical deciphering, checked against your own experience until you find no variation between your conclusion and experience. Swami himself used to tell me that, Ashwin, you don't have to believe in me. I am just guiding you, pointing your finger toward the ultimate. But the truth has to be realized by you. So, in light of that, I want to share a message from Buddha. Believe nothing in the faith of traditions, even though they have been held in honor for many generations and diverse places. Do not believe a thing because many people speak of it. Do not believe on the faith of sages of the past. Do not believe what you yourself have imagined, persuading yourself that a God inspires you. Believe nothing on the sole authority of your masters and priests. After examination, believe what you yourself have tested and found to be reasonable and conform your conduct thereto. And that's the whole purpose of the meditation also. Meditation also requires you to realize the truth yourself. So, in order to go for the further inquiry of the truth, we need to find out what is real. The scientists and philosophers have long been drawn uh, profoundly and persistently to pry into and investigate and unfold the mystery of creation and of being itself, being ourselves. Both spiritual and scientists and philosophers, they all have tried to unravel the creation. We first need to identify the true reality that forms its basis. Unless we form the basis of the reality, we cannot find the truth. In the course of deeper studies and investigation and research, both have yielded byproducts useful for the comfort, cure, and benefit of human life. Spirituality has produced psychological, mental, and physical benefits. Science has made life easier through machines, devices, gadgets, medicines, entertainment, and so on. So both have the byproducts that has helped the humanity. Continuing this journey to find the true real will not only bring future byproducts of that kind. As we continue our journey, we'll have more byproducts that are useful to the society and living being. But it will also lead toward the ultimate truth that helps humans and other living beings move toward the perfection of humanity, happiness, and peace. Therefore, knowing the true real is very critical and essential for every human being. So, going back to the Vedic teaching about real and the unreal, somehow my screen is covered with and I'm trying to hide if I can, covered with okay, I think I got it. Okay. All right. Sorry for the interruption. So, Vedic culture has tried to identify or explain what the real and unreal is. It defines the truth or the real is something that can independently exist. It is not changeable and eternal. So, in three words, the Vedic culture says that the truth or the real Sat is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. The absolute space is real with consciousness at its very nature. Everything else, they call it as unreal or mithya or illusion or manifestation, whatever you call it. So everything that we experience or observe or feel uh, has no independent existence. Therefore, they call it as mithya. Uh, it is something that appears but never permanent. Mithya has no beginning, but it does have an end because mithya is nothing but the manifestation of the absolute space. One thing I want to mention here that the reality realized by most Bharatiya or Vedic spiritual leaders since the ancient era, they all concur with one another in nutshell. And they say that Brahman or the absolute space is real. On the other side, that science has a lot of other definitions of the true real. So I want to quote some of the Mahavakyas that we have found in Vedantic literature. These Mahavakyas are not slogans. Each of that Mahavakya is direct outcome of the realization uh, by different rishis, and they are recorded in Upanishads at different instances and different times. And as I said, yet they all converge on one identity, the individual self, and the absolute are not two separate things. They all rishis came up with the same answer, that the self and the absolute space are one, and that has been proven by recent gurus also, including Maharishi, that we are a part of the absolute space. I'm not asking you to accept them on faith, but I want you to notice that seers, separated by centuries and sometimes geographically, they kept arriving at the same conclusion independently. And that convergence itself is worth noticing before we move on to the modeling this reality in a more scientific way. So these are the additional, Mahavakyas from different Upanishads, different concept. I'm not going to go through it. A lot of you probably know about it. So let's accept absolute space as a working definition and uh, uh, ask the question that is it possible that the seers were biased to look for the same ultimate, or how independent were they in their realization? That's a question we should have in our mind to believe that this is the truth. So the absolute space, Maharishi has also defined it. So there are two ways of naming the same reality in my personal thinking. The Upanishad, the essence of all the Upanishads can be summarized in one sentence, that the infinite, eternal, uh, indivisible reality, that is pure consciousness, the source and support of the universe, beyond all names and forms, and identical with deepest self, the Atman. Swamiji gave his definition, which is more or less to me same as Upanishad definition, but he elaborated a little further by introducing the force and the time part. The absolute space is the primordial divine plenum possessing the inherent attributes of consciousness, force, and time, a self-compressive energy from which all mass and cosmic energy evolve through the divine dust particle. So this is the new part that Swamiji floated in the theory that he has developed and given it to us to explore further the formation of the divine dust particles. So we all know, and I'm just going to quickly go through it, that uh, the direct truth based on the Swamiji's teachings and Vedic teachings, that the uh, real truth can be realized through meditation. That's a direct way of realizing that. The Upanishads and Vedanta hold that the absolute space, the Brahman, can be directly realized through meditations, since it is not an object or a belief or merely a philosophical concept. The practitioner becomes one with the absolute space, witnessing pure awareness itself as direct experience. Uh, One note I just wanted to add is that um, can physical, electronic, or some other kind of devices be developed to aid the meditation process, to accentuate the benefits? Because science has always been looking for developing gadgets to raise the humanity and make the society more comfortable. The purpose of meditation is also the same in a way, to uh, help the humanity and living being uh, to live a good life. So, me being coming from a science background, uh, is is just sitting and doing meditation only, is that the only way, or can it be aided by some other devices that we can develop? Now, the music and all that has been uh, uh, used to realize the truth, but that never, in my personal opinion, can lead to that, because all the approaches says that you have to get over with your senses or the indriyas to realize the truth. And if you use the sound as something to aid your process, you still cannot realize the truth. But my purpose is, can it aid? Can it help you accelerate the process? That's all. So we need to look into in that area if you can. Uh, Now the question comes, why do we need to model the absolute space? And I had some thoughts related to that, and I'm putting it here. Uh, that there are two different paths that are in vogue for many, many years to realize the truth of the absolute space. So the spirituality has mostly revealed truth without tangible or physical or experimental verifiable proof. Uh, Traditionally, the process of spiritual practice has remained unchanged over time. It has not changed. If you look at the meditation, more or less, all the gurus teach meditation, but more or less the process is same. There's not much change in it. Okay. Uh, Whereas the spirituality has resulted in cultivating the, thank you. Uh, my wife brought the water for me. Thank you. So the spirituality has uh, cultivated the faith, belief, and self-exploration more than measurable results. If you look at the progress in comparison with the science, the progress of spirituality has been slow. It has definitely yielded long-term results, but not immediate results. And more or less, it brings more psychological comfort to the practitioner, uh, but rarely immediate relief. Wherein the science has made rapid inroads toward the very ground that spiritual masters describe, uh, faster than ever. If you look at the growth or the rate at which the science has progressed is way, way higher. So if you were to graph the progress of spirituality against that of science, the positive gradient of spirituality is much smaller than that of science. And I'm still strongly a believer that science is also spiritual. They are exploring the nature. They are going to the root of the nature. They have not succeeded so far, but they are trying. So if you look at years of journey in science, they go from molecules to atoms to ions and plasma and then quantum and all that. So they are going there. Uh, but spirituality has not resulted in any tangible benefit that somebody can measure or say, aha, I got this. Uh, but the returns from of spirituality are long term and permanent. Uh, so, continuing the modeling part, uh, now I'm going back to the spiritual side. Uh, how can we bring rigor to the revelation? Uh, in my personal uh, opinion, we need to develop theories, models. We may not be successful all the way to to realization of the truth through the models and so forth, but we can come very close to that, or uh, at least we'll make some progress that will help us in general. Uh, we cannot bring the rigor simply by imposing the belief, the faith on people, uh, but the logical, scientific, hierarchical explanation backed by evidence will have a major impact on acceptance of the spirituality. Uh, that's why I said that because the science has progressed so fast, we need to accelerate the progress of the spirituality. Uh, so we can adopt the same strategy that science has used in spiritual progress also. Uh, if I differentiate the two, science, it measures pressure, temperature, weight, speed, etc., but no definite system for uh, pleasure, peace, pain, feeling, or thought. They are ranked in a qualitative sense. Uh, Modeling and simulation are proven approaches in the scientific arena. The open question I want to leave you with here is, can spirituality do something similar? My answer, as I said earlier, yes. As even spirituality says human being is ultimate creature nature has produced. That has all the abilities to achieve, to know and realize the almighty nature and lead his life to the fullest potential of satisfying the natural purpose. Even today, man has done that was not just visible, but not even thought of 100 years ago. We have been able to do that. So my my confidence says that yes, we can do that, but we have to put some efforts, sincere and serious efforts into on the spiritual side. So, what are the four core characteristics that we need to consider uh, in the modeling part? In order to build a model, one needs to identify the domain, the characteristics and the parameters, the attributes, the variables, and how these variables interact, and then how the transformation evolves, how the results can be verified, and uh, based on that, how the model can be fine-tuned or developed further. What logical concepts that physics, mathematical principles, and computational tools can be applied to the spiritual side? That's very important. We need to identify those. To me, the absolute space should be treated as a hypothesis. Like in a hypothesis, you have a hypothesis, you develop the model, you predict the results, you do some testing, and backtrack the truth of the hypothesis. And that's what my thinking is, that we can consider absolute space or the consciousness as a hypothesis and prove it back. But we need to develop all the models and the testing. Uh, we so the core part is the the identifying that the consciousness uh, is nothing but awareness and the inherent knowledge of own self-compressive force. Oops, I went to this. Uh, Did I miss? Okay, I'm sorry. It's all pervading, penetrating, continuous, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. This has to be included in the model. It occupies the entire universe. And I'll come back to this. I have one very good slide that I will show what mathematics or how you model this. That occupies it occupies the entire universe. It does not leave any space for anything else to independently exist, meaning only the absolute space or the consciousness is existing independently. All matter and everything we experience, therefore, is virtual. It is a manifestation of the absolute space itself. So this defines your domain. So in order to do that further, I have divided absolute space based on Swamiji's teaching into two parts. People, my talk may sound a little bit in disagreement with many of you, but one thing I can assure you that in totality, I agree with all the Swamiji's teachings. So the two parts that now is, one is a static state and the other is a dynamic state. The static state has the consciousness, awareness, potential, all the energy, and the divine knowledge. Consciousness does not move, it is always present. It's the karma or the cause and effect system does not apply here. Consciousness merely holds the knowledge of the law, the providence of nature. And this is what I wanted to highlight here, that the law of karma does not apply to absolute space. This is my thinking, this is my thought. And I'll tell you a little bit later why. The dynamic state, the self-compressive force and time, they belong to the dynamic state. They belong to virtual state. Force is bound up with movement. If there's no movement, there's no force. The potential is there, which is in the static state. And so is the time. Time is not a part of the absolute space. And I'll explain it in one or two slides down. Belongs, the dynamic state belongs to the manifestation belongs to the dynamic state. All the parameters and processes are the part of this domain. The law of cause and effect, the karma, applies only in the dynamic state. Um, earlier I said I will explain you how the time is not a part of the standing space or the absolute space. Um, Many of you may know or may not know, but I just wanted to bring it out with some logical explanation about the time dilation and time perception. Uh, Time is an evolved entity. As I said, it's not a part of absolute space itself. Time is a relative term. Time dilation refers to time passing at different rates for two observers, dependent on their relative velocity and gravitational mass. And this has been proven in science. This has been extensively used in cosmic theories, in space technology, space travel, and everywhere this has been used. They know that the time uh, dilates depending on where you are, how fast you are, and how the gravitational impact is. So elapsed time differs across gravitational and velocity fields. The lower the gravitational potential, the faster the clock ticks. When the gravitational field reduces, the clock ticks faster. Clock is much slower near a black hole, because it has high gravity. At high velocity, also, the clock ticks slower. This has been confirmed by atomic clocks and space experiments. We don't feel this slowing because our biology or the brain activity or the heartbeat and so on adjusts proportionately. Uh, the space medicine or space biology is a major area of research in today's era. Uh, and I want to now tie this to the meditation part. Since absolute space has no gravity, the very concept of time disappears there. Because no gravity, the clock ticks so fast that you do not have any sense of time. It completely disappears. Uh, at the peak of meditation, the meditator loses the sense of gravity and time upon merging with the universal consciousness. Um, and this may help how a lot of rishis in the olden times lived long life. We have heard that, some rishis live 1,000 year plus. Sorry, I may be going slow. I don't know what the time is. Am I okay? I'm very slow, looks like, in talking. Hello?
Yes, Ashwinji, we are good.
Okay.
Have time.
Uh, all right. Now, consciousness can be looked from two lenses. Its ontology, what is it, and its epistemics, how it comes to know, remain ineffable. It has not been explained in words yet. But both the science and spirituality converge at one point that consciousness is at root a state of being aware. That definition has been accepted by science uh, as proposed by spirituality. The emergence of the brain, what the modern science believes the consciousness as the emergence of the brain's cognitive, perceptive, experiential functions. They think that it's a biological phenomena. And spirituality is in total contrast with it. And awareness potential inherent and is not manufactured, the ground from which knowing itself arises. I think I'm going to go a little faster. Sorry, I'm not a fast talker. Um, so, If we look at the absolute modeling, here is the in the circle is omnipotent, omnipresent, and so forth. That's what the conscious domain is. Uh, and that's real. On the right hand side of the slide, you have an observer uh, uh, observing, let's say, sun, which is the object, and then between them is the process of observation, and the consciousness is witnessing. So that observer, process of observation, and object are they belong to the domain of manifestation. And here, the law of karma is applicable. In consciousness, the law of karma is not applicable. This is another way of explaining the same thing. I just try to explain two ways. Uh, but one thing I want to highlight here that the boundary between the the consciousness or the absolute space and manifestation is virtual boundary. It's not a real boundary. It's not a wall. Um, okay, let me see if what I wanted to highlight in this. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so another thing that we need to consider, and that the science, there are a lot of theories, by the way, in science to model the consciousness, especially when the artificial intelligence development is moving so rapidly. There are a lot of theories, there's a lot of literature, including in India and here and over the world, how to model the consciousness. So, I'm more leaning modeling consciousness from the spiritual angle based on what all the rishis and Swamiji has told us. So there is the science said there are more than one individual conscious. According to our theory, uh, Maharishi's theory, there is only one consciousness. There are no individual consciousness. Uh, uh, Only universal consciousness. Universal consciousness is connected to each individual causal body, living and non-living alike. Uh, every causal body stays constantly attached and engaged with universal consciousness, which is which itself is awareness, and bodies are interconnected only through consciousness. Like the causal body belongs to the dynamic state and persists until every imprint of karma is neutralized, at which point it merges back into the universal consciousness and the motion of its energy particles comes to rest. Uh, Extending this to the astral and physical body adds okay, I think I missed a point. The thing is, in modeling, I do not want to go beyond the causal body. We've been talking about all this mind and this and that. If you try to add mind and physical body and how the tissues and bone marrows and blood and everything work, it becomes very, very complicated. So my proposition at this point is sometimes even you don't even go to the causal body. Otherwise, it will be it will add incomprehensible complexity, especially when we don't have our hands on fundamentals. And I'll talk about fundamentals either in this session or in a future session because I have a lot of things that I probably want to share with you at the fundamental level. Uh, okay, so what are the challenges in modeling the consciousness? Uh, all manifestation is a projection of absolute space or the consciousness. It has no boundary, but it still coexists with virtual or the manifest space. As I said earlier, that absolute space is all over. So in real thing, there is nothing like virtual space, but it is just in our mind to understand the manifestation and the absolute space. Um, Everything, as I said, so how we mathematically describe something that is boundaryless, coexisting with something bounded. Because the virtual space is bounded, the absolute space is not. Um, Treating consciousness as continuum, the concept of continuum exists in both physics and mathematics, and that's my proposition to considering absolute space as a continuum and move from there to model all of that. Um, um, I've, using continuum concept, borrowing from the field theory in physics, is very promising in my thinking. We still need to develop the transitional laws between consciousness and virtual space, uh, especially when absolute space uh, produces the divine dust particles. We need to develop the laws, how that is exactly happening, and then move forward. So this is missing in my personal theory. We just think that, oh, the divine dust particles are produced, they are spinning. If they are spinning, my question is, okay, what is the axis of rotation? This is all science people think, what is the axis of rotation? How the magnetism is, what is actually magnetism? Can we describe in terms of math? How the magnetism is converted into pressure, how it is converted into sound, and so forth. So these are very important things that we need to look into that. And that's one way of uh, bridging the gap between the science and the spirituality. I have listed some theories here. There are many, many theories uh, in existence. So I think considering the time constraint, I will not go through all of this in detail, but under the umbrella of artificial intelligence, scientists have been developing integrated information theory, the dynamic system approach, the orchestrated objective reduction, the information geometry, the self-referential information, the physics-based approaches, and there are many other approaches, like global neural workspace and so forth. Now, coming back to, I just wanted to touch one point here, that why the law of karma is not applicable to absolute space, and it's just applicable to the virtual space. If you look at the quantum physics, the quantum physics itself tells you that the Einstein's theory of action and reaction, his laws of relativity, his laws of motions like first, second, and third law, they are not applicable to the quantum world. Then, so that itself tells us that as you go deeper and deeper, these laws will fade out with their applicability. And therefore, I project that these laws are not applicable to the virtual space either. I mean, the absolute space either. Okay, this is on a dynamic system approach because I want to leave some time for discussion and question answer, Uh, Maybe I can cover some of this even in future yes, sessions if people are interested, you know. So anyway, this is one part of the dynamic system approach, how to model the consciousness. It mostly uses the quantum physics theories. Uh, uh, this orchestrated objective reduction that also uses the quantum theory. It talks about the protein that forms the scaffold in the neuron cells and all that, and how the messages are received and transferred. It's a part of this orchestrated objective reduction theory. Um, by the way, I like this theory much better than other theories. I personally I'm in favor of quantum physics. I think quantum physics can still go deeper and merge with the theory that Swamiji has uh, proposed and developed. Uh, so in the spiritual system versus scientific system, we talked about it that it's boundless and interaction among elements are governed by a single law. There is only one law that governs in the spiritual system. There are no boundary conditions, whereas in the scientific system there are boundary conditions because we always in science, we try to satisfy the boundary conditions. Here we don't have anything to satisfy that. We just have to satisfy the total characteristics of the absolute space. Um, we all know that this is the absolute space, and then there's a self-compressive force with the blue arrows, and the yellow arrow shows you the repulsive force. Because of the repulsive force, uh, the divine dust particles are produced, and then the panch tanmatras and panch bhutas and panchendriyas and so forth. The reason I'm saying why we should model and we can, because if Max Planck could come up with a Planck constant, why can't we come up with something similar or something different to explain everything about the divine dust particle and relate it to the absolute space? Uh, can we use some strategy like that and still verify with some test at a higher level and track it back to the absolute space level? Okay, coming back to the last couple of slides, I think where the models fall short, and it's an invitation to everybody to look into this. Uh, the modern science has not developed mathematical physics-based models for absolute space. As I said earlier, the modern science treats consciousness as the organic function. It's a result of the physical body, the neurons and the brains and so forth, which is not true because uh, they totally ignore that the consciousness exists even in non-living things. Okay. Spiritual models speak of Brahman, magnetism, tanmatras, and panch, but they have not given us an epistemic account of how universal magnetism actually converts into tanmatras. That part is still missing in my personal thinking. We need to look into that. Then, my question is why do revelators stop short of explaining the transition? Why, if, sorry, uh, why revelators cannot engage themselves in math and science world? I know Swamiji has encroached into that area and he has shown a lot of things that for us to go move forward. He also supports a lot of educational institution. In my personal opinions, the all these regulators, they should engage more into laboratory activities as well, and not just talk and explain and talk that, oh, this is this, but we don't know how. If that continues, then in my personal thinking, there is no difference between bhakti and us. The bhakti says, oh, there is God, but no, has anybody seen that? No, nobody has shown that either. In the same way, we need to move more deeper into the scientific part of it, and maybe uh, the lot of gurus they go out and give so many lectures and so forth, but they don't have a accredited uh, educational institution or a lab where they can have people conduct research, and the guru himself also becomes a part of it. Maybe that will accelerate the whole process of proving it to the world that this is the truth, this is the real, because people want to see, they want to have some tangible feeling, tangible explanation, and that's what is missing in the spiritual world. Uh, uh, Once that happens, it will help eradicate mere belief and faith and superstition, and replace their mindset with tested understanding. Um, There are a lot of spiritual organizations, including Bhakti Marg and all that. They have so much of resources, so much of funds, but it's not used for any of this purpose. And I always question myself why. The other thing is that the spiritual organizations and the scientific institutions, they must collaborate very heavily. And I think if Guru can make people listen to him, then they can make people, collaborate with scientists too. Why not? There should be a possibility. It is possible. It can happen. The way the scientists are moving, they are moving very fast. Uh, and you never know, they could merge into spirituality one day, and spiritual leaders will just say, okay, we said that, but they never proved it in terms of the testing and the measurable uh, parameters. Anyway, if everybody's interested, my future section, I don't know when I will do it because I have to prepare a lot if I have to do it. But these are the topics that I want to touch upon. I want to give some tips toward a physics-based mathematical model of the virtual boundary and the emergence of consciousness into manifestation. Frequency and wavelength characteristics of divine dust particle. I think this is also missing. We just heard about divine dust particles, but I don't, at least to my knowledge, we don't have these details. Uh, how we can model the virtual space, what mathematics can be developed, what physics can be applied, and how uh, the laws that are applicable to absolute space and the virtual space can be tied together. Uh, we need to explain universal magnetism and tanmatras, also how magnetism converts into tanmatras. We need some mathematical explanation, physics-based explanation in detail. Uh, and also, I want to summarize sometime, what are the shortcomings of quantum physics to all of this that we have been talking. And then the last thing that I would like to discuss would be human intelligence and artificial intelligence. What is the difference and what is the true intelligence? Uh, with all that, you know, I would like to come to the end of the session. Um, I seek apology if I have offended anybody or If I disagree, I would like to, be humble with them that I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I'm just spitting out my thoughts for discussion and for further research. Thank you all for your patience. And if there are questions or anything, uh, I will try to answer. Um, uh, and I think we should stay in touch and share and move forward with all that. Be all blessed by the divine. And thank you for your time. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன், Ashwinji. Thanks for your wonderful presentation. ஐயா, என் வேற ஐயா, வாழ்க வளமுடன் ஐயா. Would you please provide any notes on this topic and what Ashwinji covered?
Ashwinji, good
Namaskar, sir.
evening. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
I am glad that you have made it today, and to my surprise, I have attended the whole lecture in full.
Thank you,
Though
sir.
I was there, I was not in the group at the beginning. You seem to agree with what Maharishi has said and what the science has elaborated on that. You said the difference between the absolute space and the evolved space, isn't it?
Yes. Like I said, certain areas that Swamiji has said, I need to explore further. Having said that, does not mean that I am in disagreement with him. I'm 100%, as I said earlier in the beginning, that I'm in totality, I'm in agreement with all of that. But one thing I want to mention that when we do the exploration or the research, we should keep the bias out. Because if we remain biased, then we'll be moving only in that direction. And if there are other possible ways of explaining the same concept of the theory, we may miss that as well. Because sometimes finding, like, if I have to make myself good, I have to find bad things in me. Doesn't mean that I'm bad. I hope I'm conveying what I really mean.
Yes. We have difficulty in understanding the modus operandi of absolute space becoming dust particles. We have to fill up the gap between science and philosophy with our imagination. That's all. And that holds good. Once you accept the divine dust particles are the Paramanus, then subsequent steps are pure science, and it is well understood.
Well,
The difficulty.
I have to. I haven't seen the explanations in terms of math or science, and I would like to see that if there is any. There are a lot of papers that are being published also from the other side, but I still fail to uh, understand a lot of it. The other thing is when you say it's an imagination, the people from science world have imagined things, and a lot of their things that they imagine has become a reality as well. So with that hope, I think someday this imagination can be explained, that everybody can understand without imagining.
Yes, that's it. The behavior of the dust particles on dissolution, on expansion, becoming magnetism, and the way the magnetism functions is also scientifically explained fully. When we consider the quantum theory, accepting the quantum theory, quantum particles and their behavior, following regular this thing. The smaller dust particle rotates faster, and the lower dust particles are being encircled by the faster ones. So the formation of a lot of particles are taking place, and it is understandable. You cannot have anything else to happen but for this explanation, for the follow up of the activities of the dust particles, paramanus. There is no other explanation other than the particle physics. If we combine the various conjecture suggestions put forward to fill up the gap in the evolution, once the dust particles are formed and once the life force particle is formed, there is no difficulty in explaining everything according to science. Once the particles have appeared, only thing is we cannot see, we cannot show the dust particles. And that is, for that Maharishi has given away. He said space is the almighty. How do you know? Has anybody measured the force in the absolute space? No. And Maharishi simply explained that where are the universe, galaxies, stars, and planets? They are all in space. What is holding them? It is the density, it is the heaviness of the uh, absolute space that is allowing these particles and the evolved particles to move freely and associate themselves and develop further to the level of Panchabhutas. So everything else is explained from the time of appearing of the dust particles. There is no gap uh, after the evolution of the dust particles. Then to explain the structure of the physical body, the cells, tissues, everything. Science itself explains all of them. So, this is the one point where there is difficulty in explaining and accepting or proving that the space becomes the dust particles and they become the mm, atoms, subatomic particles, and their associations. So, if we look deeper into the evolutionary theory as per Maharishi or as per the science after the understanding of the uh, subatomic particles as quantum science, everything is explained, I suppose. Uh, is it okay, Ashwinji?
Like I said, that I come from science. I personally, having said that, whatever I say does not mean that I disagree with anything. But the words are not enough to explain everything. The science believes in explaining the words either through mathematics, through logic, through theorems, through postulates, through tests, everything. And once that happens, you believe it much easily. So in the spiritual world, the explanation is very much in terms of the words, not in other terms that science uses uh, to explain all of this. And that's what I wanted to say. That's I hope what you can catch what I'm trying to say, because and in my opinion, the spiritual leaders are very very literate people, even though they did not go to college or a school. Okay. So, with all that, um, they could participate with the science world, they could collaborate, they could use their resources because there are some spiritual organizations who have billions of dollars. Okay. And all that money is used mainly to give out talks and make people believe. I'm not saying that is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, they could use this in this other world also. And believe me, even in India, I probably can name few, but even IITs are doing research, okay, to include the spirituality in their findings. So this the scientific world has not ignored spirituality. The IIC, IITs, they all have centers to understand the creation, to understand the consciousness, to understand the absolute space. So why can't spiritual organizations collaborate with them? And these institutions, IISc and IITs, and there are many other, even over the world, they have really focused centers, focused programs to do research into this area while including the spirituality. And they do publish a lot too. It's not that they're just doing it and keeping it with them. I hope I'm not too aggressive in my but this is what all that comes to my mind all the time, that why this? We all need to unite, both science and spirituality. Let's move forward together. we can progress better. We can move faster. We can accelerate the progress. That's what my point is. It may sound like a lecture, but I'm not giving lecture. I'm just sharing my thoughts, basically.
Yes, Manisha ji.
I don't know why that
Manisha ji
silence.
has raised her hand.
Yes, Valga Vulamudan, everyone. Valga Vulamudan, Ashwinji. Thank you for this lecture. We have been waiting for long, since a long time, and what you shared here is a very, it's very clearly your own perspective, and I have a couple of things when you were speaking about the absolute space in static and in dynamic, like it's static and dynamic states. You mentioned there is no gravity in the absolute space in its static form, and in the dynamic, even the self compressive force exists in the dynamic state, which I think is a little, which Maharishi doesn't say this as for according to the definition of the absolute space. He defines absolute space with kinematic wavering and other attributes like self compressive force, ever increasing kinematic wavering. So, when you were talking about modeling mathematically, so even I feel we can only model from the dynamic aspect of the absolute space from the quivering aspect. We cannot even touch the static part of it for modeling because there is no attribute to the absolute space in the static. There is no gravity, no time, there is no like it's like as in philosophy we say nirgun brahman, so without any gunas is the Brahman, and the one which we can attribute some modeling or some formulas for that matter is the Sagun Brahman, which has some attributes. So your thought process is matching with the philosophy which the Vedantins have been, our ancient rishis have put forward. But I think it is not exactly matching with the what we have been studying, in these classes, that there is, even in static state there is kinematic wavering is what we have studied. So would you like to correct me or talk about it? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Manisha. It's a good question. And um, the the purpose of dividing two things, and Swami used to talk about static space in earlier days when I met him. Okay, but he phased out the static state term in his uh, uh, talks after some time. But anyway, the the reason I am doing uh, is, I'm not saying that some part of this thing that is in virtual space or the dynamic state is not a part of the static state. I'm doing it to segregate two things to make the modeling easier, number one. Number two, you said Nirgun and Sagun. Uh, I tend to disagree in one sense, in a literature meaning sense. Okay, when we say Nirgun, but the absolute space does have one guna, which is awareness. So the awareness or the conscious uh, 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 is a part of the absolute space. It does have guna, but in the physical sense, of our experiences of all that, it is nirguna. That's my answer, The quivering, when you say quivering, Swamiji said, quivering is a part of that. The quivering is, in my thinking, is a result of this self-compressive force. If there is no self-compressive force, and maybe in future I'll prepare a slide to explain in terms of picture and words both, that if there is no self-compressive force, there is no quivering. Okay? So the quivering is the result of the self-compressive force. The self-compressive force, I still not put it in the static part, mainly because if you scientifically think, the force exists with the movement only. For example, you have a reservoir with a dam. Okay, even in science, you have a potential energy and a kinetic energy. The water that is in the reservoir is not moving, so it has a potential. All the energy is there because of the height. Okay, when it starts moving down the spillway, then it becomes a movement. So that potential is converted into the force that moves. So that's how I'm looking at it in scientific terms. I hope I answered your question to your satisfaction.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
I ask everyone even to criticize what I have said. That is my whole purpose, to get a feedback from all of you. I will never be offended, because if I don't get the criticism, I will not learn. I will not look into the other side. I will remain biased in my own thinking. So please speak up.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். I'm Dr.
Wow.
Sadhu. It's nice to see you, Ashwinji, for the first time on the screen.
Thank
So
you, ma'am.
many years we've been talking so many times, but we've never seen you. It's nice. And it's a very balanced presentation, I would say, between Vedanta and Vedadriyam. And your slides are very beautiful. You've taken a lot of effort that we can see. And I like the way you started with Buddha's message that believe nothing on faith. But then we are so limited, we start believing everything. If somebody says, like you said it, even though big sages have said, even though it's for generations, still don't believe it. Of course, our Upanishads also is in a questionnaire form. You have to ask, and then get clarification. And Maharishi also has said, Suyamai Sindite Telivai, Sollal Mattum Nambade. So Maharishi also has said the same thing. But still, I mean, many of us, even in this group or any other group, we believe on something that has already been said, and then we take our imagination and explanations further, isn't it? So only in real meditation, when you go into that samadhi state, we'll have the real experience of it. Now we have the intellectual explanations. So still, I think we are very far from it. At least I am. And another small thing I wanted to say was, you said Prajnanam Brahma in that quotation. You said wisdom is Brahman, isn't it? So actually, wisdom is only belongs to the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And it is consciousness is the Brahman. That is, I would think that will be the correct thing. Sorry if
You're right, ma'am. You're right on that. I just pulled out the quotations. Doesn't mean that I accept everything.
Okay. And of course, you said about science dealing with all the parameters. that is the physical features and laws. That is science. And of course, spirituality deals with the metaphysical aspects of it. But both should go hand in hand to prove the things that in future I think it will come true. And I was very interested in your time dilation and correlation. Time dilation, of course, we know our Shastras have said it already, but your correlation with the anti-aging of the yogis, that was very interesting for me. And the thing you said about the brain and consciousness, of course, brain is only the antenna of the universal consciousness. You have said that. And we are connected to one consciousness, many causal bodies, you said. And today I came across a small clip, where a single neuron was connected to a computer chip and it was made to play a game called Pong. I don't know what it is. But a single neuron played the game against the computer and it improved as it went on playing. So they have concluded that the neuron cannot have the this thing knowledge, but it acts as an antenna and gain the knowledge of the game. So I think I'd like to share that clip tomorrow.
Thank
And
you.
then the other thing about how the electromagnetic energy became the light. So that also I came across a video. If I get it, I'll share it tomorrow. Because electricity is a wave, magnetism is a wave, and they together they form into different wavelengths, and that becomes the light. That's what they said. So definitely spirituality can help science. I mean, all the main scientists, they've said they've come to Indian spirituality to further their knowledge of quantum feelings, etc. So it can help them to fathom more secrets. And science, as you said, can give concrete models to spirituality. And that will be the need of the hour. So thank you, Ashwinji, for a very nice presentation.
Thank you, madam. I just wanted to say one thing, and that is also in light of Dr. Ravindranath talk about dust particles. And we do not need to imagine anything about dust particles, and I'm telling you why. If you go into quantum physics, and we all know that quantum physics has made so much of progress in last 2-3 decades. That's amazing. The very basic definition of quantum, the quantum is a packet of energy which is invisible, okay? But it has physical properties. Some of it are measured and they are being used. So by the same token, we don't have to see divine dust particle. We can identify divine dust particles without seeing it too, without imagining about it too. That's my hope as far as the science, as far as I come from the scientific world, So we should not use, in my personal thinking, that okay, everything works only based on imagination. The science has done so much, and I did say that in my slides that the progress that spirituality has made in comparison to science, the science has made tremendous progress. The growth curve is very steep in last century. Like I said, I'm not disagreeing with anybody. We all should think, and we all must think, right or wrong, but ultimately we need to move toward the truth. Thank you.
For the wonderful presentation and an eye-opening. Led me to the quantum world more and more deeper, Ashwinji, with your insight. And we'll have more discussions, and hopefully you will have more free time and we'll have more collaborations going forward. Let's conclude the session today. Thank you all for attending and all your wonderful questions. With the world blessing, May the world be blessed with plenty of rain. The farmers work to produce an abundance of grain. Let the practitioners of all prosper, flourish, and grow, and the culture progress through the needs to share and grow. Let the rulers be beyond feelings of anger or fear, illiteracy, poverty, and all evils made to disappear. Let the true lamp of knowledge burn steady and bright. Our sense of duty guide us along path always right. வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன். May peace be with you all, and we further enhance the subject of merging philosophy and science. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க.
Thank you. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். Thank you.